Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhoads on the Buy Here Pay Here Morning Show. Take it away, you two.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
It's
Happy Wednesday. Oh,
Welcome, y'all.
you're welcome. My
Where are we?
microphone. We're at home.
Oh, yeah.
We're not traveling right now. And
A little groggy this morning.
it's been a rough start.
Yeah.
It's I've had plenty of caffeine, but still.
Mhm.
So happy Wednesday. It's White Hat Wednesday.
Mhm.
And
Got a white hat topic.
nothing really, we talk about the weather, but it's like it's cooling off, and it's just a really cool. I really enjoy getting up in the morning, and it's like I got to throw a sweater on before we go out. We have coffee outside for as long as we can comfortably have coffee outside in the morning.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of our really cool rituals. I highly suggest to anyone out there that has a relationship with someone as a romantic, lifelong, whatever partner,
Okay.
to take the time to create ritual.
Yeah.
And where it's like, this is a safe time, a safe place. We can talk about the stuff. We can connect with each other and all of that. So it's it's been
So,
really, really beneficial.
Michelle
with
has
us.
heard me say that the problem with that sometimes is until I've had enough coffee, caffeine, sometimes with my sweetheart, she's talkative at times that I'm not necessarily listenative. So that's my new word that I've come up with. It's like I'm just trying to help her understand. Look, I need another cup of coffee before I can become listenative. So
yeah, I mean, everyone has their own thing about, are you a morning person? Are you an afternoon person? Are you an evening person? I'm all day person after about 10 minutes.
It's 3 minutes. 3 minutes, and you are on the day's stuff and planning the landscape projects, and it's
I was like, stuff. Don't allow me any grace there. That's okay. It's like, that is what is. 3 minutes, full on. Let's get this party started. And Jim's like looking at me like, no words.
No, it's okay.
No words.
She starts, but it's like 12 minutes in before I hear anything. Like, before I actually register.
Oh,
what she's
goodness
saying.
gracious. Yeah. Okay. So that's our relationship corner for the day. Announcements.
Yeah. So we announced yesterday that we're moving forward with V8N. So N is
because we were talking about doing it V8 101, and you decided on N. Okay. Right on.
And so it's all the same thing. We can call it V8 101. It's like so I just had a group 3 meeting last night, that's kind of the first group that we've done that is for beginners, 0 to 100 accounts. And I'm just recognizing the more we do this, that it's not practical to try to have the same sort of meeting format with them that we have with the established dealers.
Yeah.
They don't have as much data to compare. Sometimes some of our dealers didn't sell a single car in the month of July. So they're just kind of figuring it out and getting,
because they've got other side stuff or whatever. And
so the composite is not really compared. So I typically spend the time showing them averages and calculations from the other groups and kind of educating them on these numbers.
So they're learning.
Yeah. And let me tell you, last night they asked some really great questions that led me to produce some numbers that I've never really thought about.
When you came upstairs after your meeting, you were like, I got asked for some stuff, and I was like, wait, I have the data. I can come up with that number. And so Jim, who loves spreadsheets, was like, burp, 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 burp. There it is.
Nerd. I spit it out for them. But
numbers nerd. I do like that. That just rolls off the tongue really nicely. Numbers nerd.
And I own that. Like that's who I am. But it's like they asked questions they're great questions. I mean, 2 or 3 great questions from dealers. One guy in Texas in particular has got really great questions. And so it prompted me in the course of trying to answer his question in a way that would be more visual and easier to grasp what it is that I was presenting.
Fantastic. So many people are visual learners anyway. So yeah.
And so his question is now I'm going to be able to take that same information back to our established dealers. And I promise you, they're going to like looking at these numbers too, because it's like, it's a new way to think about. I don't hear people talk about this stuff. And so it's a new way to think about some of this stuff. So anyway, we're having a lot of
fantastic.
fun.
So there are new V8Ns, and it's for dealers that are new.
Mhm.
And so define new.
Just anybody, even if they haven't yet contracted their first deal, they're welcome in those groups.
So as early as that and as late as what?
100 accounts. When they get to pretty close to 100
then you've
accounts,
kind
I'm
of
going to want to
figured
move
out
them
some
over
stuff.
to establish.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So there's a lot of dealers out there that are like that.
Absolutely. And so we want to try to help them, graduate, so to speak, to one of the other groups. But yeah, that group is more coaching, more education.
Yeah. Yeah. And we knew that going in when you were like, there are newcomers that really need help. And we're like, can we do this in the V8 format? And so we kind of went forward and we realized, I think where this is going is that we realized that it makes sense to have it be a V8 thing, as like in a group type of thing, but
Live
it's
and
just,
interactive.
it's really not the same kind of format as the other groups, because it's like, there is a lot more coaching. There is a lot more of that kind of stuff going on. And so, it gives dealers an opportunity to talk to their dealers and, am I having a struggle that I shouldn't be having? And all of that. But it also opens up a really beautiful opportunity for seasoned dealer mentors to take a group of newbies.
And I'm meeting with two people today who have an interest in becoming moderators. And so we're going to start them with newcomer groups. And so I think this is part of where, I look forward to being able to go in that direction where we can reach out to, because it is proving to be a really great coaching format, group coaching format, hour and a half a month. And we just get together and we answer their questions on the fly. We show them numbers from the other groups so that they can see, okay, here's what the dealers did in July. Here's what their averages look like overall. And it's just so helpful to them to have a lens, on that sort of stuff. So it's really been great. I'm enjoying it.
I can see us moving more. I mean, we're not taking clients as much, but more and more towards, if you're going to spend time coaching, it just makes more sense to do it as much in a group as you can. Because it's just,
possible.
Whenever possible. So especially with the newbies, which has been our, that's kind of like our shtick, has been for a long time, is helping new dealers get into business. So it's fantastic. So
other quick announcement, I got the other new group 5 meets tomorrow night. And so that's the first time for them to meet another one of those groups is 500 to 2,000.
We've got of the group, it's predominantly women.
We started where we make sure we have 4 commitments signed before we start the group. And so, 3 out of the first 4 to sign are women. And so I think that's
different perspective potentially on different things, different kinds of questions or not.
It's, to me, we're going to stick to business. I told them, I said, I'm going to celebrate the fact that you're women, and then we're going to get down to work. So
absolutely.
It's just the same as everybody else wants to learn the same stuff.
Okay. I doubt seriously that they're gonna want to have like a conversation about feelings.
No, I don't, of course not. But I just think it's a business matter. They're gonna potentially have a different view on some of the stuff.
Oh,
but I
absolutely.
Think otherwise,
well, and that can be such a benefit to all dealers. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited for you. And we're continually adding groups as needed, and we've gotten a lot of feedback from people that are like, I would like to moderate.
One quick other update that ties into our conversation today is both the newcomer group and this group that we're meeting with tomorrow night that's sending in their data for the first time from the month of July. They are struggling to get numbers that balance.
This is like the thing. This ties in the whole thing that we've been working with DMSs to. Can you produce this report that can balance out within X percent?
And many of them are working on it.
And many of them are, and we have, there's a couple that are like, they're there just to the last couple of final tweaks and stuff, going to be super helpful for dealers. There are others that are unable to or haven't been as responsive, but it will help dealers be able to be a good dealer
Sure.
and have good solid numbers.
Well, I'm just saying it kind of highlights the problem with DMS and reason some people might go through a DMS divorce.
Okay.
Is
Yes.
because, when the data is so far off, it's like at some point you start to question whether you're with the right software. So that certainly becomes a question. So let's talk about the reasons that you and I see in working with dealers. And we've got dealers. I'm participating in a kickoff call next week.
Yeah.
What?
I'm just thinking about dealer divorce.
Yeah. You had a chance to get sound effects ready, but you didn't do it. So it's all good. I think thinking about the reasons that we see dealers going through a divorce is, DMS divorce, is that so the list includes things like accounting. Like they can't, some people want like onboard accounting, so they want to go find a software that offers that.
Okay, so what that means is that some dealers leave a DMS because they don't have the features that they need.
Correct.
Or that they want. So it's a feature thing.
Yeah, it's features, definitely. And so that to me, what also would roll into features would be integrations.
Okay.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Obviously in the digital technological age that we're moving into, there are a lot of cool add-ons, kind of sister products, if you will, that, it would be nice to be able to utilize that service and not have double entry. So double entry just would be, I got to key it in here and I got to go over to the system and enter it again.
And the one I can think of the most is like a underwriting software that it's like you can work a deal in underwriting software, but it certainly does not push the DMS.
Yeah.
And so you got to redo all the stuff. And both softwares are good and useful, but it is a pain for a dealer to, it's like really, and when that's happened, it's like, yay, because it creates a lot less workload for, and it's a win when that works really well. So
it's just so features, it's hard to know
integrations.
Like, you can look at the list, but I think one of the things that happens when we meet, especially dealers that are newer in the business, they don't fully appreciate what the demands are going to be on that system as they grow.
Yeah.
And it's understandable. They don't know yet even what, and I always tell them when they're new, I said, you're kind of at this stage where you don't even know yet what questions to ask.
Oh yeah.
It's like pretty hard for you to know.
One of the testimonials for V8 was just like, you don't know. Yeah. I had no idea that I didn't know this stuff. Yeah. So yes,
for sure.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to this kind of integration stuff, it's like, you don't fully appreciate even what's out there in terms of, let's call them add-on tools, like these supplemental tools that you could go get. So you mentioned underwriting. Obviously, there's payment processors,
GPS,
there's CRMs, which may or may not do underwriting.
A lot of DMSs have that inside of it, but yes,
yeah, but
it
how
sucks
good is it?
For a lot of them. Yeah. I mean, they say, yes, we have a CRM, but it's like,
right.
Okay.
So another one is support. Like you hear a lot of dealers complaining about, I can't get support.
And this is where I coming from an extensive background in customer support, this is one that I feel like, we talk about subject matter X. I ask the stupid questions because they're questions that people may want, as we're having a conversation about buy here, pay here, all of that kind of stuff. Customer support is something I can speak to really well.
Yeah. And so there are some kind of exaggerated examples in our industry. It's like, we're not going to name names of providers here, but it's basically, there are companies that their vision of support is, well, we give you chat thread available 24/7. It's like, yes, but the people in that chat are reading from a knowledge base and they don't know the first thing about my business. They don't know the first thing about a buy here, pay here transaction or contract. And so it's like, there's I can talk to somebody and yes, they know where the buttons are in the software. But when we talk about support, we're really looking for something at a much higher level than that.
So, and support weaves into all of these things,
of course,
in a really big way, because most dealers, there are people out there that their MO is, I'm irritated, I'm going to suffer, I'm irritated, I'm going to suffer, I'm irritated, I'm going to suffer until I am just done and I'm moving.
Right.
And that that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, we have an opportunity, dealers and vendors alike
Mm-hmm.
have an opportunity to help each other grow,
Mm-hmm.
help each other get better. And so, you know, things like, hey, I'm having a problem with the accounting. If or, you know, we're talking DMSs here. So I'm having a problem with accounting. And I would ask dealers that are listening, if you've got a problem with something with your DMS, then talk to someone
Mm-hmm.
at your DMS. Okay. That's like a what is. What I see happen is they don't know who to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
The chat bot is not really, you know, that helpful,
Mm-hmm.
or like, here, give me a suggestion about what we can do. Not super helpful, because there's not just like a I matter to you as a customer type of conversation that happens with it. And so, you know, I think the first line of defense in any divorce with a software or whatever is communication. Have you tried to communicate what it is that you need?
Sure.
Now, once that's been communicated, it's like the ball's in your court, right? I mean, there can be a volley back, and, you know, it's like but ball's in your court. How can we help? You know, the answer might be, hey, we don't have the capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
This is on the roadmap. Hang tight with us, as long as they're being honest about that.
Or if they can even reach the people to talk to the
yes,
roadmap people.
so yes, exactly. So I'm going to give sorry, the last thing you talked about is nickel and dime policy. That is so frustrating for so many dealers. It's like, yes, we can, but it's going to cost you.
Right.
And it's like, gosh darn it, you're the biggest bill I've got every month.
Right.
And you're asking for more to do something that a lot of dealers are going to benefit from. And so, it's like, that
the
sucks.
one I've seen quite a bit is we're working with dealers, and the dealer, we suggest that the dealer would have a certain kind of report. They go to the DMS system and they say, yeah, we can do it. Let us get it with our tech team and we'll come back with a quote. And I'm thinking, right away, I'm upset as a consultant. This is included in other systems for less than they pay less over there than what they're paying for your system. And you want to charge them for programming. And it's like, this is part of what, so again, we're not in that business, but if I were a dealer, I would grow weary of the nickel and dime.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's like a pretty good comprehensive list of why people want to break up. Right. And what I've seen, as and this is something I hear about frequently from dealers in social settings or whatever. It's like, yeah, I call and I don't get an answer. Yeah, I'm reaching out and I just get lip service, and then it's back to normal. And we even sat with a dealer friend of ours at the last conference. Dealer friend of ours is like, hey, you know, we like, it's so good to see you. And then the conversation kind of struck up about, hey, I'm having a problem with this. And I was like, oh, let's talk to the person. And so we were like, hey, there's a problem with this, and they're asking for some help, and, you know, all of this. And the answer from salespeople is, yeah, we can get onto that. Yeah, well, here's the person that's yeah, we can get on with that. And then we have a conversation with the dealer 3 weeks later. How are things going? She's like, the same.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that ball in your court dropped.
Yeah, because the other thing that you see with support, going back to the stuff about, you know, when you're on support, a lot of times the best they can provide you is a workaround. And so but I disconnect and I've solved my problem for the moment, but the larger problem will be back tomorrow. And so this is the part that I think that it's, if we said we're going to have a little fun and make it more like a relationship, a personal relationship, like it's like you're not listening to me. You're not hearing my frustrations and what yes, I can get on the chat and I can talk to somebody, but I'm not really being heard as a dealer principal, as a business owner. Yeah, my people can get on and solve the issue of the day and reverse the payment or whatever's got to be the little issue.
But is it going to happen again? Is it going to happen again?
Yeah,
and is it going to happen again?
Also, dealers get stuck in no man's land, and we've talked about this in the past. It's like they get stuck in no man's land because this is part of why we're asking for copies of contracts, which, by the way, those people who didn't hear last Wednesday's episode, if you have a DMS contract
or a CRM
or can get to it, we would like to have you send a copy of your contract to Jim at White Hat Way. Or
it was
Allison too.
Allison, where
you can find that, but I'll explain. Like the idea here is that we want to be able to look at that, because what I mean by no man's land is the DMS has a responsibility to provide support for their product. But when you get to integrations and let's pick a payment processor, there's a payment processing problem. And the software, the DMS, is not communicating well with the payment processor like it's supposed to. And we've seen quite a few of these issues circulating on social media where people complaining about a certain provider, anybody else having a problem here. And of course the DMS is like, not my problem. Like, everything's good on our side. It all looks fine. You have to talk to the payment processor. And then of course the payment processor all looks good on my side, and so they're stuck over there. The dealer's kind of stuck. Like, I still don't have my customer's payment still hadn't posted in the software, whatever. I'm picking an example, but it's like, these are the things that for dealers, it gets really frustrating, and to the point where, this is stuff that's hard to know. So part of what we would be advocating for, and so we'll try to wrap up today with how to avoid, finding yourself in a situation where, again, it's hard to know what questions to ask.
It's how to avoid and how to be graceful in, because it's how to be graceful in that separation.
I think a lot of dealers that I work with can be graceful for the first day, maybe the second day, but by the third day, they're losing some grace and they're starting to get pretty upset. And on day 5, they're reading their contract.
And well, exactly. Cause that's the thing is that, it's like, how patient should you be? Especially if you're not feeling heard. So all of you vendors out there, this is a really great conversation for you to be just like, how do we rate on the this?
Right.
How do we rate on the that? And because what I hear frequently is that dealers are like, I don't matter, obviously. And so I've got to sever ties so that I can move forward in a positive manner, find something else, whatever. And so that's a big thing too, is that dealers don't feel like their voice matters. And we hear a lot of dealers out there that are like, yeah, it's a problem. Here's a workaround. It's like, it's just a what is, but maybe this one is the least expensive. And so that's our reason to stick, or because of this, because but it's like, you just like, no, I guess I just have to deal or whatever, but they just don't feel heard. And one of the things, we talk about how can we help a dealer so that they don't have to, is like, for one, that's one of the things that White Hat Way is out there trying to or that we're doing, is we can be a moderator, and we can say, all right, dealer, you're having a problem with this. Well, how about if we go to, we know that there are other dealers that are having the problem. So how about we go and we have a conversation, because it's like, it's the last ditch effort. Can we resolve this conflict? And if you can't, then, it's like you've done everything you can. But how great would it be for a dealer, especially when you're looking at a DMS divorce, which is like hell for most dealers, if you could resolve the problem so that everyone's happy, how beneficial that would be. And so just even being able to feel like you have a voice, and that your voice matters. And sometimes there's a lot of dealers out there that might be having the same issue. And so instead of just talking about it on social media, it's like, let's talk to the DMS.
Well, that's fine. I think what you're touching on is something that we've never done. We did it in person at the conference, but I think what I can say here is that Wyatt Way currently is happy to be a voice on behalf of dealers, and we're a white hat in doing it, saying we're trying to be the voice of progress. You know, we're trying to be the voice of you know, customer success, dealer success, and ultimately the vendor success as well, right? So that's really where our voice is, and that's what we're happy to do. And so what we're doing today is talking about all the DMS providers and the relationship between all dealers and their DMS providers and other providers eventually, right? So what we can do, though, we haven't specifically expressed this, but I can say that if a dealer is in a kind of a stalemate between whether it's a DMS or another provider, you can invite us in to just at least do discovery conversation. We're not trained mediators, right? But we certainly can play an independent role as mediators and kind of have those conversations. So you can certainly reach out and invite us, and we can at least come to a discovery call. And then if it reaches a place where it's billable because it's taken some of our time, then that's one thing. But certainly we can come to a discovery call and try to find out what the issue is and try to play a role. We're happy to do that as White Hat Way. Now, the piece that I think the bigger thing here is when I think about what dealers, how we can work as champions on behalf of dealers here, is to be able to, you know, ask these questions on their behalf to try to make their experience better.
Yes, and we happen to have a platform to do that very publicly.
Yeah.
So it can be helpful.
Calling people out.
Yeah.
So I think what that gives us a chance to do is, look, we're on your side. If you're listening and you're a DMS provider with some unhappy customers, we're on your side. Like we want to see that go well. We want to see your dealer users have a good experience and be able to serve their customers well. And we don't want to see breakups. Like we want to be marriage counselors, and we want to, you know, we want to keep you married, which kind of takes me to another thing about something I didn't plan to touch on, but let me just kind of quickly. I've been hearing in recent months from some providers reaching out to us. They recognize we have a platform. They would like to help us introduce their system, a DMS, whatever, to the industry. And I've talked to at least 3 in the last 6 to 8 months that are bringing a pricing approach where they say, we're going to give the software to the dealers for free, so long as they use our payment processing
That's
hub.
so dangerous.
That's what I think.
So
we're trying to make sure dealers know that. So why is it dangerous? Is because, well, if you step into that agreement and you have all your data now living in this free DMS, and now you decide you're unhappy with the payment processor or you're unhappy with the DMS, what does that contract look like? How can I get out of that contract? And when I leave,
or it's like, can I have a different payment processor? And what does that mean for my payment towards you so it's like, is there a plan B?
Right. So I would say another thing that we're happy to talk to dealers, and probably we can just start to educate in kind of group environment about what do premarital relations look like. I surprised her with that one. So,
no, we were talking about this last night. And he says, "What about premarital sex?"
Yeah,
and I was like,
feel about that?
I was like, I think that a dealer should be able to take a DMS for a test drive. I just
think
do.
So too.
I just and like not just a this is a demo. But this is like, okay, it's a demo, but will it take it for a test drive? And I know that's hard for a lot of software providers, DMSs and all that to hear, because it's like, you have no idea the work that's involved in creating an environment for a dealer to play. Well, that is hard work, but that actually is something that it would be beneficial to all dealers to be able to have, and I come from software, having a sandbox that you can play in. And it's like and not just go through a thing, but it's like, okay, you can take me through, and you have someone that shows how everything works. And then it's like, okay, do it yourself. and this is how it works. And then maybe bring your general manager in. It's like, okay, this is how it works. We're playing in it. How does this feel?
There's still a limitation there. So I put it on the screen, or I didn't put it on the screen. I put it in the banner, but let me show. So I want dealers to write down that word, because the next time they're going through a software
everyone who works in tech and software understands what a sandbox is.
And then the question is, do they have it? And are they willing to provide it to a dealer?
Sandbox is a place that you get in there and play.
But what I want to make sure people know, and this is true for you too, is that sandbox is only going to take you so far, because all these systems will do the basics. So I'm going to put a car in inventory. I'm going to add some expenses to it. I'm going to price it, and maybe it's going to automatically upload to my inventory when I check the box. So all that stuff is easy. They can almost all do that. Now we start to contract the deal. The question becomes, how flexible am I in contracting? What contracts can I choose from? And how much kind of compliance help am I getting there? Are the contracts that are in there compliant? But now, so they'll all stock in a car, price it, contract it, and have a method to collect payments if they meet the definition of DMS of what we're talking about here. So, so if they'll all do that, now the question really becomes, it's all these integrations I'm talking about. How does it communicate with my GPS provider? How does it communicate with my payment processor? How does it push accounting? How does it handle RFC accounting? Like, there's all these different layers that you're never going to really be able to demo in the sandbox. So I think it's just really important for dealers to understand what they're buying and what's not.
Yes. And so, we've I've sat back and I've watched Jim walk people through newbies. These are brand new. It's like, what is the most important first decision you got to make? Besides like your location, getting your license, and, all of that kind of stuff is your DMS. And not everybody has the ability to have you who knows a lot of DMSs and already has a deep understanding of how all the different things are working with each other and all of that, and knowing, all right, so let's have the conversation. What are your goals? What are you trying to do? Well, that you've acted like a matchmaker for a long time. So it's like, I'm out there looking for this. Well, okay, so let's have a conversation. You fill out this little profile kind of thing. The DMS, we already have their profile. So it's like, these things match the best. Would you like to have a lunch date?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. It's just lunch, right?
It's just lunch.
So I think that's an interesting thing to think about. I think the other thing I put in here is that instead of sandbox, is like, what is your tech stack? So this is another thing to understand. Again, this is all part of what you would want in your prenup or when you're dating.
Yeah. But again, Jim, the problem is that most dealers don't understand.
Right.
And so that's why we're on the air 3 days a week, is to start to educate dealers about what are the things that matter, what are the questions you should be asking. I mean, we're not necessarily there to hold your hand through the process, but trying to give you good information so that you can make a somewhat educated decision on the things.
And, we need to update the list. I've got an old list. I haven't been asked for it for a long time, but there are a number of questions that I would want to ask a DMS provider when I'm considering stepping in. But I think, here's the thing, folks, is like, if you're considering a DMS and you go out on Facebook and you say, what software you guys using? What do you like? And so, they'll give you these different options. This one's always served our purpose. It's very budget friendly. Well, okay, back to the basics. Buy a car, price it, contract it. They'll all do that, folks. Like, they'll all handle, I hope, I wouldn't call it a DMS unless it will handle inventory, sales, contracting, collections. Okay. So and then I want some version of reporting. Like the reporting is obviously where I live as an analyst, helping dealers analyze and know what's going on in their business. And I think this week has kind of amplified that, because I've got dealer CFOs sending in stuff that is nowhere close to balanced.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's what what I'm observing is with our dealers in V8, and we've got some incredibly seasoned dealers. And what's been surprising to me is that it doesn't matter if you're new or incredibly seasoned, that it is a shit show
Yeah.
for like, how are you getting the thing? And it doesn't matter what DMS they're on. It's just,
'Cause they
well,
don't
and when
know.
there are some that are a little bit more challenging than others, but it's because they don't know where to go, how to create, or even if their DMS is able to.
So just to amplify this, it's like we're providing them in V8. There's a
Mhm.
data reporting form. Okay. So it's, inventory, closing inventory, sales numbers. That's all easy enough. But by the time they fill that out, that there's collections numbers. How much principal did you collect? How much interest did you collect? How much principal did you charge off? Right. And so on. And then it has a calculation row, has a formula row in there that says, okay, you told me that you started the month with this, or you closed last month with this, which became your starting balance. And then you added this much in new principal, you collected, and so on. So, but it has a formula on there that says, this is how close your numbers are reconciling.
And we've showed them on, it's
Right.
like, this is within 1%.
This is why we're asking for that white hat way portfolio summary. And again, a lot of
very
DMS
helpful.
are very, very cooperative on that. So we're excited to have that solution. And because of where we live and working with a number of different DMSs and helping dealers get to this information, it's like it amplifies this idea that, wow, if my own people, I hire and pay who knows what to my CFO, and they're sending me numbers because they don't realize it doesn't reconcile. They don't know.
And that's the case. That's what you're finding is it's just like they're because they might be really buy here, pay here. I've learned is a very unique beast.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's not like you can't just throw someone in here who's familiar with bookkeeping or financial stuff from out in business and throw them in and have them. Apples are not it's apples and oranges.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
It's
is hard.
And I think it's the reason that you're going to hear me continue to beat this drum about, can we just reconcile principle? Can we just reconcile?
Every dealer should be able to reconcile principle.
And look, some of this stuff gets kind of complex. We've got dealers who do retail and buy here, pay here, and lease here, pay here in the same operation. It's all running the same software. So obviously that becomes a little more challenging to, all the moving pieces. But when we've got dealers who are just doing lease here, pay here, just doing buy here, pay here, then at a minimum, and we've preached about this plenty, but it's like we want them to be able to know exactly where to capture these numbers because it ties to so many things.
Yeah.
And starts with portfolio performance, which is one of the things we're first looking at in VA is we want to be able to, let's make sure we got valid numbers that we're working from.
Well, and we get that this is like, these are our frustrations and that they may be different than a dealer's frustration.
Yeah.
But I mean, what all kind of boils down to is even from a vendor side where we have a lot of dealers that are like, we're working with a lot of dealers. I mean, I was just like an email just that I was CC'd in, and it's like, well, we've got X amount of dealers on this DMS. We'd really like to get this resolved quickly. And, because it's going to help everybody. And that's a powerful thing to be able to do. Is to say, we have these dealers. If you need a list, it's like, these are the dealers that we're working with that we need this help. And a lot of dealers as lone islands don't have that. And so what we're just, we're trying to articulate is, if things are rough, if you're having a challenge and you're having a problem, your first line of attack is, well, first off is, do you have the education you need to be able to use the stuff? And, and if you need to ask for more training or whatever, until you feel like you've got it, then that's something that a DMS should be so willing and able to help train so people feel good and confident in what it is that they're doing.
I'm glad you mentioned confidence because that's something else that we see dealers just lose confidence in their software.
Quickly.
Yeah. It's like,
quickly.
I can't get to the numbers. Like what?
Especially with you, that it's like, I just want this. And they understand, that should be pretty easy.
Yeah.
And it's like, you go in and it's like, not so easy.
Not so easy.
Why is it not easy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is part of obviously why we're working on those things. But I think back to just thinking about, so how does a dealer avoid finding themselves in an ugly divorce? First of all, when you're dating, you gotta ask the kind of advanced questions. Like if we're dating, it's like, how do you feel about having children? That's not the first date, honey. That's not typically something you ask on the first date. It's like, so what do you do?
How do you feel about kids?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you do for a living?
So what if I wanted to adopt one or something?
No, I think it's just knowing what questions to ask. Like if we're really going to be in a marriage that's going to be a long contract, and we're going to renew that contract. Because I think
how does that look?
When we talk about a marriage, part of the reason I wanted to make this a marriage conversation is because when we step into that agreement and now you've got all that data over there. Okay, so let's talk about that quickly.
It's like splitting assets. Gosh, darn it, can be hard.
Yeah, and so, but it's a question of what assets can come over.
Yeah.
Like what is the DMS provider willing to transfer?
Well, like in a regular divorce, it's like, well, this is mine and this is yours.
Yeah.
And so for a dealer to understand, if I were to break up, what's mine and what's yours?
Exactly. So it's part of why we're asking for copies of contracts, and we're starting to collect some of those. But then also it's like just knowing, here's generally what I see. It's if I were to change software and I were, I'm the old software and you're now the dealer in the new software, it's easy for you to get to, and I will make available the current inventory. You export the current inventory, move it over to the new software. You could start to market
and
it over there.
That shouldn't be hard.
Nope. Now receivables. What is the customer? Customer Mary Smith has a balance of $10,312.98. Push that over. That's their account balance. So now you can start collecting on Mary's account over there. But what about all that transaction history? What about all the payment
all the
history,
conversations,
all the notation,
everything that is so important?
It's like most of that stuff in our experience is not going to migrate. And so you have to be sure when you step into a DMS arrangement, and this is why we don't like the kind of the free offer. We're not going to be recommending to our clients that situation where we'll always look again, but it's like when you're offering the customer, the dealer, free DMS, naturally your mind goes to what's the motivation, right?
Well, I guess someone's getting paid somewhere.
So you're getting paid on the payment processing side, but what's that contract look like? And then again, if I'm in there and I'm stuck in this contract, do I have to buy my way out of the contract? It's like, that's the part that when you're in there and now you commit to putting all your transactions, all this history that you then want to analyze because you want to go back and test your own performance. Now you move to a new software and a lot of that history is not coming with you folks. And so it's just important to understand in your arrangement, what does that look like? And so it starts to say, let's make sure we document, our own stuff, have good records.
Oh, yeah. Is it's not coming with you? Is it because there's not a pathway?
Can't say. It's going to vary by
because
provider.
I mean, I'm like, so much of the information that we see in a DMS is it can be broken down into a CSV file, right? So can communication, like the account history, be broken down into a CVS file?
CSV
or CSV, sorry.
Can't say. I mean, I don't want to get that technical today.
Well,
but this is the question.
That actually, to me, would be the first thing that a DMS can provide to a dealer is the ability to be able to download all that information so they can store it somewhere on their own, or be able to, and it's like, we'll give you the information, but we're not going to be able to push it into the new DMS, but all of the information is there. So it's just, how do you, and that's a lot of information to go through, but it makes it possible to get all of the things in, or at least a place where you can go, all right, we're going to cross until we have enough history. We can, your collectors know that you're going to be cross-referencing data about this customer.
Maybe it just, you could end up in a scenario where your collectors have to go look up the history in an old system, or who knows what they're going to use to look at.
Well, and that's the thing. So does the dealer have to continue to pay for 3 years for the course of the thing?
We don't know.
Or
we don't know. That's why we have to look at contracts, and this is why we want dealers to recognize the complications that come along with it.
There are, and it seems so like, when you talk divorce, it's like, sorry, we got a message, but it's obviously spam.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so hard questions, things to consider DMSs, it's like this is a real thing. It's a real problem.
Right.
It's a real opportunity.
Right.
And so for dealers to start educating yourself on the questions you need to ask, we're trying, White Hat Way, Jim and Michelle are trying to help you understand these things. That's why we asked you to send your contracts into the attorney that's donating time for this. They can take a look through it and then find the things that we need to find so that you understand how that looks.
Right.
And once everyone knows what all the pieces are, then we can really move forward in a positive way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we just want dealers to have access to good information because they got a difficult. They're in a high risk business, or at least one that's perceived as high risk, and it has a lot of moving parts, and they have to manage that well in order for that risk to pay off. And so we want them to have good information. And so this is all part of this is why we brought the subject to a White Hat Wednesday, and why we're going to continue to talk about it as an industry-wide matter. It's not aimed at any one provider. It's about helping dealers have good relationships with their providers and ultimately be able to support their customers and lead to success for their customers.
Yes. And we talk about V8 an awful lot, but V8 has been a vehicle for just bigger conversations to start happening. And, it's like, we try to be, we use the word agnostic, but we try to be like, let's figure this out. And, this is what you got. And these are the questions that should be asked. And, the dealers get to make their own choices.
Right.
We may be a matchmaker or dating service. And it's like, here's some people that we think you should talk to if you're looking at doing something like this, or, we can help with the conversation. And so it's been, Jim has for a long time wanted to be able to help the plight of a dealer, help dealers get the information that they need, make their business easier to run, make them more, help them to be more educated to on the straight line stuff. And then also to how do we help remove friction between this and this. And V8 has just been a really great way for us to be able to move forward in that way, in a way that's, even though it's with V8, it's just giving us a different platform or to be able to help all dealers.
Right.
And so, I sit back and I watch this, and it's like, I tell Jim all the time, it's like, I'm really, really just happy for what it is that is becoming a reality that you've had as a vision for a really long time. I'm happy for you. And so it's all going to just benefit all the way around. So we're out there fighting the fight.
Yep.
And we're fighting the fight for all dealers.
And we're bringing others to the conversation. I think one of the things we recognize is we can lead the conversation around a lot of this stuff. We won't do it ourselves. We can't do it alone. We're gonna rely on alliances and allies and people and we're getting that. We're giving people step forward and can play a role in kind of facilitating a lot of these things. But this is we certainly have an opportunity to make some real progress in this industry. I think we first have to just identify and speak openly about the things and where the priorities lie. And I think this one at DMS, because the DMS is such an important backbone to a lot of the businesses that are out there. And so it's we want dealers to have a good relationship with their DMS and be happy. We don't want to see ugly breakups where they're saying nasty things about each other on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, and what we find in V8 though is that these are not your wild card dealers that are, because there's always going to be dealers out there there are people out there that are reactionary and want to have something to complain about or, whatever it is. This batch of dealers is not that when they are combined. I mean, there might be someone that's like, but then someone, okay, well, and so we're able to do like an aggregate of the frustrations, aggregate of the stuff. And so really, really grateful for the opportunity we have to be able to help dealers in that way. And so we're out there fighting the fight for all dealers. And so we're just, if you're having problems with your DMS, reach out to them, try to get it resolved through training so you can feel more confident. Give the DMSs the opportunities to be able to do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you aren't getting a resolution, then that's like another conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, just so you can feel more secure, is send those contracts so that that we can help educate you about what it looks like.
You want to put that on the thing before we wrap up. If you have a contract to send, do you have that, or you want me to put it up there?
I with this one right here. This is Allison at alhlaw.com.
Yeah. And you can copy Jim at whitehatway.com.
If you want to. And we asked our attorney to do this so that dealers didn't feel like they were just sending stuff to a vendor.
Right.
And because we are ultimately vendors, but that it's like, this is going to someone who understands confidentiality. They understand all of the stuff, and they're going to be able to dig into the things for the questions that we're asking. Right. And so you basically, by sending that to them, are giving us permission to find the answers in your contract.
Yeah. And we're not going to be picking on anybody. We're not going to be, naming any names. Nobody will know who the dealer is or the DMS provider. We're going to talk about those in a more generic way. But just quickly to kind of help folks understand, Allison Harrison, we reached an agreement with her in kind to provide this legal support to White Hat Way for a period of time. And we're now using that to work on behalf of dealers. But also Allison, just for everybody can look her up, she's an attorney with the Ohio Independent Auto Dealers Association. So not just,
so she understands buy here, pay here.
Right. For sure. Yeah. She's got a lot to offer on that.
Probably LHP, just the automotive industry. Yeah. She understands.
But her firm is lending, time to our mission, at White Hat Way. So this is another example.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So thank you. A big, huge shout out. Thank you to Allison for that. Yeah, really appreciate that. Thank you for all the dealers that have already sent things in. Well, hopefully next week we'll be able to kind of give you an idea about the ones that we've gotten and, where we're at with all of that. But, just know that we're just out here just beating the drum for how do we make these things easier and better and with less friction,
right?
With all of that.
Sure.
So
we should wrap up.
I think we should wrap up. Hey everybody, I know it's a long one, but we always appreciate you listening in, and it was just a good conversation about the things and that just know dealers out there that it is not hopeless.
Right. Oh no.
So there can be resolution and there are people out there that are trying to help. Yeah. So hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back on Friday with what?
That one's just a recap
of the things that everyone's talking about. Some people call it the hot topics. Yeah. So, all right. Have a great day, everybody. Appreciate you and your support. And we will see you on Friday. Thanks so much.